Here's the most practical advice you'll ever receive when it comes to video marketing.
Start where you feel the most confident of, like, I
100%.
could do this in my sleep. You'll never regret investing in video.
I've got Maren Larson, marketing expert and founder of M Studios Consulting, on the show today to break down what it looks like for your business to excel with video content.
That's another quick tip on where to begin. Consistency wins.
Yeah.
We talk about the low-hanging fruit of video content, what's working across industries, and even discuss tools helpful to making videos.
Is it okay to just use your phone for some of this video content?
That whole breaking news type of format.
This is the Video Lab show where I have high-value conversations with experts in video marketing, video content, and video platforms. I'm your host, Caleb, and I've been helping businesses grow with video since 2012. I'm a video content creator, coach, and founder of the Video Lab, a content studio located in downtown Sioux Falls, South Dakota. If you're a business or individual wanting to learn more about how video can help you create more awareness, build trust, and generate more sales, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any other future conversations. So here's my conversation with video marketing expert Maren Larson about the basics of online video content that will 100% grow your business.
All right. Well, Maren, thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for including me. This is awesome.
So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself with M Studios Marketing and just kind of a little bit about your background in marketing and where you got started?
Yeah, my journey to marketing was pretty on purpose for the most part.
Yeah,
I
right
would
on.
say that when I chose to go to Augustana here in Sioux Falls, I knew that I wanted to go into marketing.
Nice.
Now, what I will say is that by J term of my freshman year, I met some really incredible professors
Oh, yeah.
who convinced me to add the journalism major.
Okay. All right.
Which was probably the best accident
Yeah.
that happened along the way.
Nice.
So really started my journey into marketing in journalism.
Okay.
So I was a multimedia journalist and part-time anchor here in Sioux Falls for a local TV station.
Yep.
Learned a ton in it was death by fire,
Yeah,
just
right.
threw me in on live TV. I was
man.
doing video production, had never shot anything on anything in
Yep.
my life,
Yep.
and just learned so many things, and also really leaned into the power of networking, of if you knew who to call, you could figure out the story, you could
Excellent.
figure out what to capture. And so the 2 years at what was KDLT News
Okay.
at
Yep.
the time taught me a ton, and really took that storytelling approach to marketing strategy beyond the newsroom. So then started my marketing strategy career, was in a variety of different industries, everything from higher ed to private education to healthcare for a long period of time, and then went off into real estate development.
Okay.
And really the project that I worked on with that organization was I was really sitting in a CMO seat
Okay.
and had to rebrand, do brand new brand strategy, get them ready to expand to other markets, get a new website up and running, really start them from what was basically nothing
Okay.
and get them ready to scale. And I got through 10 months of that and went, I think I want to do more of this.
Nice.
And so that's how M Studios was born.
Okay.
Is I was like, I think the fractional CMO model is something that
Yeah.
I could really bring a lot of value to businesses in
Excellent.
that capacity. And then very quickly, within about a year, I realized that a lot of my clients were like, this strategy is great. We love working with you,
Yeah.
but we really need that execution support because
Okay.
a lot of people either didn't have the entire bandwidth within their internal teams,
Okay.
or they didn't have an agency partner or whatever it was. And so
Yeah.
that's how M Studios came to be today, where I still offer the fractional CMO model, but I do it with the support of an outsourced marketing department.
Okay,
And really
yeah.
true cross-functional marketing team.
Now, are there is it like a certain niche industry or niche market that you're working in, or is it kind of like whatever?
It's a lot of variety,
Okay.
but I would also say that we've really found a niche in clients who are passionate about building relationships.
Okay.
And
Yep.
so that doesn't necessarily lend itself just to B2B or just to B2C.
Gotcha.
It's people who are driven by we're not about quick wins.
Yeah.
We're about long-term brand strength and long-term relationship-driven marketing.
Okay.
And that's really where we find our sweet spot.
Yeah, excellent. And one of those pieces about marketing that we're going to be talking about today is just that video aspect.
Right.
And from your experience in basically video from from the beginning of your career, really, I mean, what's the importance of video in marketing? I mean, we'll jump right into it of how is video affecting people's marketing right now?
I would say that if you're driven by that long-term, like get to know us,
Yeah.
video is the way to go
Yeah.
because it's exactly why I'm sitting in this chair right now. Like
Yeah.
you and I had never met before,
Yeah, right.
but
Totally.
it gave you an idea of like what to expect when you're in a room with me
Yep.
of like, I feel like I know this person.
Yeah.
And so one of the other like blips along my career is I started a fashion and lifestyle blog
Okay.
and got really comfortable with kind of sharing my voice in front of the camera.
Cool.
And it also gave me a really neat perspective to be able to coach others to do
Yeah.
the same because there's this
important.
balance of what needs to be highly produced and what needs to be more organic. And I think regardless, you need a video strategy and you'll never regret investing in video.
Now, you mentioned like, oh, we hadn't met each other before. You got to see a little behind the scenes of me like scrambling, trying to get all these cameras
Yeah,
set
I
up
get
and
it. I've
everything.
lived that life.
Oh man, that's good. So, okay, so somebody that I think video, you talked about, I have so many thoughts going through my head right now, but you talked a little bit about, that comfort factor
Yeah.
of being on camera. Now there is a little bit of, what's the word? It's intimidating,
Yeah.
really, like being like, okay, I'm going to turn on a camera and I'm going to talk to that camera,
Yep.
or I'm going to turn on a camera and I'm just going to go about my business and just let the camera run.
Yep.
And there's like this intimidating factor that I feel like a lot of people experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what type of advice would you give to somebody that might be experiencing those things? Or another thing too is like imposter syndrome. Like that's huge when it comes to video, and just like, I know for a lot of the video that I do, I'm like, am I really qualified for, saying this? Or maybe I'm just not even going to make a video because I don't know what I'm talking about. So there's like this level of imposter syndrome, a level of like, just being scared to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice would you give to somebody, maybe a small business, in Sioux Falls, that might be looking at doing some video production or making their own videos?
Yep.
What type of advice would you give?
I would say start, period.
Let's go.
Just start.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and maybe it's different for everyone, but for me personally, as someone who's told that like, oh, this would be a great thing for you to come on, like you can go speak on camera and you seem to like feel very comfortable. I have never, ever, ever felt comfortable. And
that's true.
I am certainly more comfortable now than I was when I was on air every day.
Yeah.
Like, and that's something to really think about is like the people who you see on camera, whether it's on Kello or KSFY or whatever, they're probably just as nervous.
Yeah.
And they're just better at like powering through.
Right.
And so regardless of who your audience is, just starting, and the more that you do it, it's like with anything.
Yeah.
If you are wanting to get more confident in your presentation skills or your writing skills, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. But I will tell you, there's been zero scenarios where I've had to be on camera where I'm like, this will be fine. Like I have to hype myself up. I sat in the parking lot and was like, we're good. Like I've done this before. We're going to have this conversation. It's going to be fine.
Can you take me back a little bit to your very first time on camera? Like what was that like? Cause you're going live, right?
Yeah.
Like you're going live at the anchor desk on this news station.
Yeah.
Can you take me back to what that was like?
Well, I can tell you, I know exactly where I was when I did my first stand-up, which is not live.
Yeah, right.
That's pre-recorded.
That's recorded,
I
yep.
was actually on Augustana's campus,
Okay.
and we were doing like a Red Dress for Women luncheon.
Okay.
And I was on the corner by the Elman Center, and I was still enrolled at Augie, so it was my last semester.
Nice.
So people are driving by, and it's like people who know me,
Yeah.
so I'm getting honked
Yep.
at. I can't even tell you how many takes I had to do. It was outrageous.
No.
And now, like, fast forward
Yep.
13, 15 years later, and it's like I can do that no problem.
Oh, yeah.
But that my first day, or even my first year on camera, like I think
Yeah.
about the stuff that I was doing, and I'm like, how did they keep, like, how were they renewing my contract? Like, this girl was
That's
garbage.
awesome.
But I think you just keep showing up and you
Yeah,
do your
totally.
best, and yeah, it was not pretty.
Was there like okay, I want to stay on this just for a little bit because it's really intriguing to me. But like, when you're at the news anchor desk, you have like the teleprompter and stuff too. Like, how was that kind of like reading that live? And like everything, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Bright lights,
Yep.
right? We have lights in here, but they're not like super bright.
Yep.
Like just that everything going on. How do you like just focus
Lock
on
in.
that? Yeah.
It's funny because when I was at Augie, they didn't have a multimedia journalism major. It
interesting,
was
yeah.
just print at the time.
Oh,
so
okay.
I had written scripts
Yeah.
to be for a teleprompter, because
Okay.
there's a specific way that you write for a teleprompter. So I had learned how to do that, but I had
Gotcha.
never learned or even been in front of a teleprompter. I had no idea. And I had a colleague at the time who had moved into more of a coaching role.
Okay.
And so between her and my news director, they sat me down and they were like, we want to put you on air on the weekend and see how you do. And I'm like, I'm sorry. You want me to do what?
Come again? What?
Yeah, I don't think I should. And so we did practice runs. It's
Yeah.
not like I did it for the very first time live.
Gotcha.
But what I will share is there's a very funny story that my news director and I, who still stay in touch, joke about a lot. And one of the things that you would think would be very natural, and this goes back to like organic style conversational
Yeah.
video that you want to produce for marketing materials,
Yep.
is crosstalk. So if you're sitting there and you are reading your script and you've got your teleprompter and you're reading along, and then you have to toss it to weather, there's no script for that. And so you would think
Nice.
that the crosstalk, like conversational piece would be really easy.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually very challenging. And for me, what I kept doing over and over and over again, and like they could not get me to stop doing it. I eventually stopped doing it, but I'll never forget
Yeah,
it.
yep.
I kept saying, so I hear that we're getting snow this evening. And they would stop me every time and be like, Maren, you are the lead anchor. You already know everything.
Oh, man,
so
yeah.
you don't hear anything. You make the news. Like you haven't heard anything. You are the
That's a good
reason.
point, yeah.
So you can't say, and I could not stop saying,
Yeah.
so I hear.
Yeah.
Like, no, you didn't.
Through the rumor mill.
Yeah. So that there are a lot of things that kind of have to be beaten out of you. And
That's an interesting little tidbit here, because I think that like goes back to even the video marketing that we're talking about in this episode. We went on a rabbit trail a little bit, which is totally fine, right? But that like you are the news, like you are the expert.
Yes.
You know, when it comes to your video marketing, if you're feeling intimidated by doing videos, just know that you are the expert.
Correct.
You are the industry leader.
Yep.
You know, and I think that's one of the things that video does so well is like it positions you
as the thought leader.
100%. Yeah.
And what a great tool to leverage for other opportunities for thought leadership.
Yeah.
So I think that that's another like quick tip on where to begin is start where you feel the most confident of like, I know this stuff.
Yeah.
And whether it's like sharing behind the scenes
Yep.
of building something or, you know, sharing a process or whatever it is for your business, start where you feel the most confident of like,
100%.
I could do this in my sleep.
Yeah.
And I know that it's really easy to talk yourself out of like, well, everybody already knows this. I promise you they don't.
Yeah.
I
Right.
promise you that someone will learn something
100%.
from wherever you feel most confident, and you sharing that voice is really powerful. And not only that, from a marketing strategy perspective, if you capture moments like that and you are the expert in that video content, it's so much easier to pitch yourself in bigger rooms.
Yeah. Right.
So to say like, oh, I did this and I've done it X amount of times, I've shown it, you know, X amount of ways. And then if one of your goals is I want to go speak on this thing where I know I'm the expert, how much easier it is from a marketing perspective or a PR perspective to pitch you as the expert if you've already shown that you are.
Yeah. 100%. One of the things I love about that is like, I talk a lot about your unfair advantage when it comes to your video, whatever type of video content you're making, especially on YouTube. If you're making long form video content on YouTube, what is your unfair advantage? What is one of those things that you can tap into? Whether it might be your education, might be your experience, right?
Yeah.
Like being a news anchor, your experience. What are those things? Maybe it's a sickness that you went through, you know, unfortunately. Maybe that's something where you have this unfair advantage. Have that come across in your video content. People are going to either relate to it, they're going to find value in it. They might become your biggest fan just because of your video content and that unfair advantage that you have, whether that whatever that background is or anything like that.
Well, it just goes back to the whole like your experience is unique.
Yeah.
Like your life is unique.
Yep.
And so taking that storytelling approach to a unique experience to you will find and land with people. And it doesn't necessarily mean like that as you're thinking about like niches or where you find like your sweet spot. It doesn't have to be an industry. It doesn't have to be you know, a particular like business line.
Right.
For us, it's that like other people, we're looking to work with other people who are relationship driven.
Yeah.
And that's not an industry. It's not a business line.
Yeah.
It is just a commonality
Cool.
where we feel like when we are on the phone with people who are considering using us for their services,
Yeah.
it's very quick to like, once we identify that, it's like, yes, this is the right fit.
I want to go back to what you were talking about, feeling intimidated about making video content. But talking about what like one of the things I like talking about, and I probably bring this up in like every episode, but it's huge. Like use your FAQs on your website, like your frequently asked questions.
Yep.
Just every one of those is a video,
right?
And you may have 10. There's 10 videos right there.
Yep.
So like, what are people asking you on a regular basis?
Right.
Easy video content, low hanging fruit, right? Like we're talking about low hanging fruit and getting over that fear factor. FAQs, huge.
Yep. Oh, totally.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about being intimidated. Maybe we face a little bit of what did I call it?
Imposter syndrome.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I totally lost my train of thought. So as we think about video marketing, what are some of the misconceptions people have about using video for marketing? Like some of the experience that you have.
Yeah, it is that everything needs to be polished or a huge production.
Oh, that's huge.
And I think that there's a time and a place for both. And really your content strategy should be poised to share both.
Yeah.
And so starting even before you start diagnosing like I need a video. This is what we often find is like there will be people who come to us because they feel like they need a website or they feel like I need a video. They've already pre-prescribed their disease, like their marketing disease, like this is what we need. And I just caution everyone to stop and think about it from a strategy perspective of that diagnosis is probably part of the problem.
Is there like a WebMD for marketing? Or
trust me, I'm working on it. I'm working on that.
Yeah.
So I think that very well might be true.
Yeah.
But if you step back and start to look at it from like a business level of here's what I'm trying to solve, then you can start to create a action plan or a care plan that's aligned to get you to that business goal. And so with video, it's no different of, video might need to be part of your strategy, but you better back up a level and start thinking about your content strategy, which aligns to your blog, to your podcast, to your video, to your social, to your email strategy, all of that. And if that sounds really overwhelming, you don't have to start everywhere,
right? Yeah.
But have an understanding of like these are all of the places that we should be based on our business goal.
Yeah, totally.
And then start to create a strategy that then is meant to support that. And I think from video, you can start to identify your different content pillars of I know I want to be known for educational information. I want to be able to teach people this thing that I have an unfair advantage on. I want to be able to showcase some of my life. I want to be able to show who I am as a person. And I want to be able to, talk about past performances of like why I'm the expert, why I'm credible, where I've made an impact for other businesses that I've worked with. If those are your 3 content pillars, those are the only things. Start to create an outline of what can I produce organically on my phone, in person, very storytelling type of approach, like just hands-on really quick. And then what is it that needs to live beyond a moment in time? Because that's one of the other things that is really intimidating for people is like, well, I posted this and nothing happened.
Yeah.
And it's like, you should be repurposing so much of this for that long-term strategy. And so if you are looking to balance the whole organic versus highly produced content, just think about where all of those messages need to be.
Yeah.
And so you might need to invest in a higher quality video for your website, which is your online resume, and maybe some email clips, some social media clips that you can use more than once.
Yeah, totally.
And really building that content library, but then supplementing with those organic style videos along the way.
Sweet. I think it is kind of frustrating sometimes where you do a video, make a video and it's like 30 views.
Yeah.
Or, maybe 1 share.
Yeah.
What advice do you give to people that might be like, I just want to give up because I'm not getting any views. What's the point? What's the point of doing all this?
Yeah, I think it's that consistency wins.
Yeah.
And I think
agree.
that the
Totally
other
agree.
thing to keep in mind is that I read this is not an original thought, but it really does give you really great perspective.
Mm.
That if you had 30 people in a room and they were all watching your video and
Yep.
you're standing in front of them and they're all listening to you,
Yeah.
doesn't that hold some weight?
100%.
I think that social media has made it seem like the expectation should be thousands, if not millions
Yeah,
of views.
right.
And the reality is your audience isn't everyone.
Yep.
And so how do you get a little bit better every day to reach the audience that is for you?
I think that is key right there. Like, who is
Yep.
your audience?
It's not
And
everybody.
It's not everybody.
Mhm.
And are you, sorry, I'm pointing so much.
That's
I'm
fine.
like so pumped up. But like, who is this video for?
That's
Like,
right.
you need to make sure it's targeted.
Mhm.
And if those are the people that are seeing it, then it's a win.
That's right.
Like, you don't, I think that's important because, what's the saying? There's like a saying, like if you, I'm just going to use the video term, but like if you make videos for everybody, then it's for nobody.
Correct.
But if you are making it for your audience, maybe people that are interested in your product or
Yep.
your service, and I think that's where like those FAQ questions
Mhm.
really come into play too. I'm just going to go back to that because then those people are getting those answers before they even walk through the door. So that,
Yep.
I mean, that's like even just a trust building
Mhm.
exercise as well.
Mhm.
And, but that's key.
Well, and to your point of those FAQs might live on your website, and
Yeah.
sometimes people will talk themselves out of needing a video that then feels like it's duplicative of content that you have other places.
Right.
And just keep in mind that people consume content differently.
Yeah.
There are people who enjoy reading content. There are people who enjoy listening to content. There are people who enjoy viewing content.
Yeah.
And so it's not duplicative if it's reaching different people and where they want to and how they want to consume content.
You know, there's one of the reasons I love like this form of content that we're doing right here, because for several reasons, mostly because this is a long form piece of content.
Mm-hmm.
But from this, what we're doing right here,
Yep.
I can get like 25 reels out of it.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, I can get 25 reels. Then I can take the transcript
Correct.
and create a blog post from
Correct.
it.
Yes.
And I can use AI for that,
Right.
you know?
Yes.
It's the words that we speak in this video. It's not just pulling random things, but
Right.
the actual transcript, make a blog post out of this,
Right.
which I'm going to do, Maren.
You should.
Yeah.
I love that.
It'll happen.
I love that.
But then keep going. I can get like written social media posts out of
Oh,
this.
no question. And we joke within our team, it's shoot once, use a million times.
Yeah.
Of if you have a 30-minute conversation and you didn't record it, that's 30 minutes that you missed in terms of
Right.
an opportunity to share beyond just that one interaction.
Yeah.
And so every time we do content marketing management for a variety of clients, anytime we do a blog interview,
Yep.
we record it.
Yes. Love it.
Because we're not just using it for the written content,
Yeah.
we're using it for potentially audio, for potentially video.
Yep.
You know, the more types of content that you can capture and use in a multitude of different ways.
Yeah.
Because not only that, but then you ended up with those reels.
Oh, yeah.
You can take a screenshot of that and put it in your email newsletter. Like it can literally live so
Yes.
many different places.
Yes.
And I do think that speaking of an unfair advantage,
Yeah.
I immediately knew the value of that because of news.
Oh, yeah.
Because we left our newsroom at 9:30 in the morning. We had at least 2 stories to tell. One was a shorter form story and one was a longer form story.
Okay.
But you had to make that story work for 4 shows, if not more.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So you had your long form story that would run at maybe 6 and maybe again at 10, depending
Okay.
on what type of like news it was.
Yep.
But then you had to figure out how to take those cut downs. You had to make one for social. You had to make one for the web.
Yeah.
You had to, so you were using that one thing
Yeah.
to populate news as many places as you possibly could. And it's no
Wow.
different for content marketing.
Yeah, that's amazing. That it's huge having those, like, anytime you can like point people back to a pillar piece of content too,
Yep.
right? And so that's where those little snippets come back in
Yep.
to play. Point them to your blog post on your website, get traffic
Right.
on your website.
Yep.
YouTube channel, get traffic on your YouTube channel, which you can like have a free download to
Yep.
like collect email addresses. I mean,
Yep.
it's just like this awesome cycle that really just keeps going and keeps
Right.
working for you even when you're sleeping. That's what I love about video.
Yeah, no question. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is if you can start to learn how people are interacting with your content, then you can start to create and outline those. Sorry, as I geek out over marketing strategy, you can start to outline your customer journeys based on how they're interacting with your content, and then just do more of that. And so that's where that whole like just get started. You'll never learn those things if you don't put anything out there and just continue to refine and get better every single day.
Right. Now, we talked a little bit about this, but like what types of videos are most effective? Let's, for like small business, this is kind of a loaded question, right? It's not, I mean, it's going to change for like different industries, that type of thing. But like for the most part, like what types of videos are you seeing being most effective right now?
I would say that it depends on industry and it also depends on channel.
Yeah.
But I think the best rule of thumb for this is if you can shoot one piece of content, one long form piece of content, and then cut it up into a million pieces.
Yeah, gotcha.
You get the most bang for your buck.
Okay, so maybe if you have a product, maybe like a tutorial or something.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Maybe.
Yeah. And so you're saying like what type of thing do people want to see? I think it's still industry specific.
Yeah, totally.
And in that relationship building type of space, which is where we've ended up. I mean, we have everyone from finance to tech consulting to law firms. Like those are they're high integrity spaces, and it's like, well, you're not going to place an ad and go pick a lawyer. Well, no kidding.
Yeah, totally.
But you will feel like you can make a decision on who you should have as your lawyer if you feel like you already have a relationship with them. Right. And so anytime you can, and this is where the intimidation part gets in the way, is you kind of have to allow yourself to be introduced before they're even in the room with you. And I think if you can do it in a way that it's conversational, it also makes everyone more comfortable. So sometimes having a partner in that is helpful.
Right.
And that's where, sometimes M Studios has been that partner of like, we facilitate the conversation so that we can act as the journalist on your behalf. And that way it's not just you talking at your camera. You have a conversation about what it is that you do and why you're the expert and who you work with.
One of the things that I've noticed is really popular right now is, I don't know why I keep pointing. I'm sorry. It's almost like a one-sided podcast video. So it'd be something like this, but it's somebody like, whether you're reading a script off of your computer or you're actually having a conversation with somebody, you put your camera just off to the side, have like a desk mic or something, and you make it look like it's your side of a podcast. Yeah. And that's huge right now. A lot of people are doing it, and it's easy to do because you just put your camera up, your phone, whatever you're using, and then read. Right. Like you don't actually have to have a conversation, but then it looks like it's a podcast style video. I've noticed that is very popular, and I think with a lot of like service-based companies, like that, something like that might be an easy low-hanging fruit, right? We're talking about, kind of being budget friendly with this video marketing. A budget-friendly form of video content. Yeah.
And I think that it helps with the intimidation factor if you can figure out. So like I have I haven't executed on this yet, so I'm just going to give you a little insight into what my plan is.
I'm going to hold you accountable now.
That's fine. You can. So I bought this like phone tripod that I can put on my desk. I can put it on the floor, whatever. Totally. And then I have my main screen in front of me. So I maybe have an outline so I can be reading from that, but I'm not looking at the camera.
Totally.
You're looking off cam, and you're automatically more comfortable because you feel like you're not talking into a lens. Yes. And so that's a great like low hanging fruit. Yes. Buy a tripod that you can put on your desk, frame it up so that you can be looking off cam. And that's how you do it in news. Oh yeah. I mean, when you frame it up, it's like, okay, you're just talking to me. Yeah. Don't look at the camera, pretend it's not here. You just have a conversation and you can treat it as your own interview.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. So as we continue the conversation, let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the different types of tools that you could use if you are, on a budget. You're not looking to necessarily right now hire somebody to come and produce a bunch of videos for you. Yep. Is it okay? I think we've already established this, but I want to ask you directly. Yes. Is it okay to just use your phone for some of this video content?
No question. I
Yeah.
think that's a great place to start.
Absolutely.
And think about how much more comfortable you are by the time you get to a place where you're ready to do a true production.
Yeah.
And it also allows you to break that other wall
Yeah.
of feeling like it makes the people on the other side feel like they know you in a way that they otherwise wouldn't. And the more you can even just practice, maybe you don't publish them all.
Yeah, totally.
But I also think that you're going to learn a lot if you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even some of the feedback that you might get,
Yeah.
constructive criticism, maybe.
Totally.
I don't know.
Yeah. Put yourself out there.
Put yourself out there.
Yep.
That's scary though.
It is. It's very scary. I think I'm notorious for this. Like, I don't like to share things until they're done.
Yeah. Right.
But I also think that that whole breaking news type of format is a mentality to keep in mind as you create content too.
Now, I will say this about using your phone and organic content, especially, well, even some paid content when it comes down to it, is like people relate to this style of video now,
Yeah.
right? Like that's what they're watching. Vertical like this, even. I'm just going to hold my phone up like this.
Yeah.
Make sure it's not in your face there on that camera angle. But shooting it vertical like this, that's how they're consuming video right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, now, I'm in the video world, and one of the things I get to do sometimes is go to like content trainings and things like that. And so this camera brand that I use, Panasonic. Okay, there's somebody yelling in the background. Well, hopefully that didn't show up on camera. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. I go with this camera company, Panasonic, go to like some content trainings and things like that. And one of the things that their team does for their TikTok videos, and they're getting like millions of views, right? The very first shot, every single time, is a phone shot. It's not even like 6K or 4K that we're shooting with on these cameras.
Yeah.
It's a camera shot. So if anything, like if you have any doubt about using your phone, this is one of the best video tools that you can have. It's right in your pocket.
Yeah.
And use it. I mean, a big thing right now is like UGC, like user-generated content. Yes, user-generated content. And a lot of that, like whether you're using influencers or whatever, they are using their phone to make this content. And so a lot of the ads that you see, I kind of feel like it's like this. If you go to Facebook Marketplace, some of the ads that you see in Facebook Marketplace look like they were shot in a garage. Like if it's like a furniture ad or something, like it looks like it was shot in a garage so that it like blends in and it's relatable. Right. And so that's a lot of what is happening with video content today, right now, at the time of this, like 2025. People aren't necessarily going to see like a Super Bowl commercial on your phone and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to click that. Yeah. No, they want to see stuff that they relate to, that's relatable, that they're making themselves maybe, you know? And so when it comes down to it, should you use your phone? Absolutely. You should use your phone. Question. And that's coming from me who like does professional video production. Right. And so a lot of the conversations I have is like, you know, if they're asking, should I use it or should I do professional? I'm like, well, in the best case scenario,
you're doing both.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I'm out of breath after that.
That was a great soundbite, though.
Oh, thanks. I mean, hopefully I can cut that up. I don't know. Is there any other tools? Like you mentioned, like a little tripod or something like that. Is there any other tools that you would recommend for somebody that maybe is on a budget looking to just make their own videos, small business or something?
Yeah, I think a tripod is probably the first thing I would recommend.
100%.
And then you kind of like start to layer things on. Yeah. Maybe you had mentioned CapCut. I know that's a great one.
Yeah. Some editing.
Yep. Some editing tools, whether that, it could be it's kind of personal preference. It's like what you want to learn. There's so many YouTube videos that you can pick and be
100%. Or you can come to a iPhone video skills workshop that will be coming in 2025.
Absolutely.
But CapCut, I love CapCut. Okay, you mentioned CapCut for video editing. And one of the things that's great about it is a bunch of AI features in it. So like you can actually Basically, it will edit your video for you. If there's like blank space in there where you're not talking or anything, like it'll go and it'll cut it out for you, which is a great feature where you don't need to hire a professional necessarily to edit some of those videos.
Yeah, and our content strategist, Quinn, will kill me because he knows that I can't rattle off the technology that we're using.
Oh,
and he would have so many great tips. So we'll have to ping him after this.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll get him on the phone or something. I don't know. One of the things I do want to mention just about like the actual creation piece, if you're on a budget, like make sure audio is good. Audio, I would even say audio over video quality. Like if you can't actually hear what's in the video, and I'm holding my phone up a lot like this, but like if you can actually hear what's being said, people are going to scroll past anyway.
Correct. And, this is an investment.
Yes.
But there are versions that are similar that
100%
aren't quite as much of an investment. Now, that said, think about how many times you do a video call. Like I use my mic like this for not only my podcast, but also just for meetings.
Yeah, totally.
Because, and I will tell you, and Quinn was the one who picked it out for me. So again, I have to shout out to Quinn. But I have had so many people buy this mic after being on a meeting with me.
A meeting.
Yeah, because they're like, oh my God, your audio is
You better set up an affiliate link or something.
I should.
Seriously.
I really should. Swipe up to shop on Amazon. I can do that.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, audio quality is huge. And then, another thing too is just if you can invest in a little light or something, it's big. It just makes a difference. You know what I mean? Or stand in front of a window with like a sheer curtain or something. I'm just budget friendly ways to start getting like low hanging fruit, right? Start making video. These are easy ways to do it. Make sure you can be heard. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to emphasize that like when we work with partners, we have a tutorial video and it's literally me at a busy, loud conference. And I've like walked away from the group and I'm talking to my camera and I make sure that I'm in front of a window and I talk about like, here are the things that you could talk about, while you're here.
Love it.
And so so as a business owner, like that was a quick tutorial that was then scalable for me. It's stuff like that. That's like, where are you an expert? Go make a quick video about it and then just go send it to your clients and be like, hey, what do you think of this? Like, was this helpful? And then you can start to iterate along the way.
Another great feature is Loom.
Yes.
Loom.
Yes.
Like if you want to do some tutorials, things like that, make a Loom video.
Yes.
And post that.
Yes. Exactly.
Simple.
Yeah. Well, and also establishes you as the thought leader because 100%. So here's a perfect example of one we did just this week. We created a sales tool for an entire sales team to use. There are 2 slides at the beginning that tell you exactly step by step what to do.
Yeah.
It is very user friendly. I guarantee you that someone will just skip past those 2 slides and they're like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
And there are very specific instructions there. And so we decided, okay, not only are we going to add these instructions, we will also be adding a Loom video on exactly what to do because it makes you stop. The whole video thing makes you stop because it feels like you're being talked to. And so even things like that, where it's like, you might have given instructions, but can you use a Loom video? Even if it feels repetitive, it probably isn't to somebody who would prefer to hear from you or see you versus read instructions because who wants to read anymore, right? It's tough.
Well, I know that I don't.
I know. Well,
I'll tell you that much.
That's another like pro tip is like think about how you're consuming content.
Totally.
What are you drawn to?
Yeah.
And so pay attention to how you are consuming and then maybe you can take some inspiration from it.
I love it. Okay. Well, that was a great little tidbit on some of the tools. But how about this? How about some tips? Like what are some quick tips for creating engaging and authentic video content without a big production?
Tell a story.
Love it.
I think it's that simple. I think, and it goes back to your comment about what's your unfair advantage of it's share an experience and storify something that even if you're meaning to get across a sales pitch at the end, like start with the story. Anytime we're coaching people on how to present, like maybe there's a pitch deck and they have to present it to a group of people, the first slide is always as boring as possible. And so if it's a video, you don't necessarily want it to be boring at the beginning, but start immediately into storytelling mode because that's when people lock in. and then get into why we're here.
Yeah. And that's a great, like, client testimonials is a great
Mhm.
storytelling feature too, of
Yeah.
like, how is your product being used, or how
Mhm.
is your service being used? Like, what are some successes from that? I love that storytelling
Yeah.
aspect. And you don't need a big production budget to do that.
No.
Are you familiar with any of the like Story Brand?
Oh yeah, I love Donald Miller.
Yeah, Donald
Yeah.
Miller.
Yeah, I'll geek out over him.
Oh
all
man,
day.
yeah, his podcasts are great too.
Yeah.
Like if you haven't seen his podcast or heard his podcast, check out his podcast.
Yes.
But I love just kind of that concept of like your customer is the hero of the story.
Yes.
And you come alongside
As
them
the guide.
as the guide.
Yes.
And that's such an easy storytelling aspect of like,
Yep.
how can you, and that's like the client testimonials comes along in that as well.
Right.
Okay. Is there any like platforms or anything that you would recommend for people to get started with video? Let's say there's a small business here in town,
Yeah.
new to town. They want to get started in video.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any recommendations on platform? This is such a loaded question. I know it's like, and you could probably just do a whole episode of this show on this
Yeah.
specifically, but do you have any recommendations?
Well, as a strategist, I have to ask you who your audience is.
Okay.
I
love that.
Depends
Yes.
on who you're trying to reach, because I love Instagram.
Yeah.
I actually am not a huge TikTok user, but I'm not their target really.
Yep, totally.
And so Instagram makes it very easy to create timely video content, and their editing tools are very simple also.
Right.
So I love Instagram, but maybe your audience isn't there.
Yeah.
I also absolutely love LinkedIn. You want to talk about like really building relationships that are business driven. Like that's why people are there.
And LinkedIn is becoming more of a video platform.
Very much so.
Like that's kind of exciting to see.
Yes. In fact, I read somewhere that they were adding like a stories type of element to their strategy. So we'll see what that
see what that brings.
goes. Yeah. But that would be my recommendation, is pay attention to where your audience is consuming content.
Yeah.
And then that should drive what you're using in terms of tools.
And that really goes back to what we talked about earlier, is like really understanding who you're making videos
Correct.
for. Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. Of like, if you don't want to make, business style videos if your audience is on TikTok or whatever,
Right.
like,
Yes.
I don't know a lot about TikTok because I'm not there a whole lot. I've been experimenting with it a little bit.
Yep.
And I think TikTok is making me feel good with like lots of views.
Oh yeah.
Because I just started an account on it, you know?
Yeah.
I think TikTok's making me feel good.
I think you're probably right. I hate to tell you that. I mean, that's good. I'm glad. But I just had this conversation about LinkedIn of like, I was consistently posting and then like my views fell off, and then I took a break and then I came back, and then it made me feel really good because I had all these views again.
Yeah.
And then I didn't post again, and it was like really bad all over again. And I was like, yeah, it's because they want you to post all the time.
Oh, I know.
But yeah, it's the algorithm's tough.
Yeah,
And
totally is.
I think that keeping in mind that views do not equate to customers.
Yes.
Like that does not equate to success.
Yeah.
And just because your views are down doesn't mean that it's not impactful. Now, the other pro tip that I just want everyone to keep in mind as a business owner, if you see content that you like, interact with it.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to keep scrolling. It's like, oh, that was good.
Yeah.
But then you don't do anything.
Right.
And I am bad at this as well.
Okay.
But it's like, it's an instant, it's not even validation, but it's more like, keep doing this.
Yeah. Right.
It's more, give us more of this content type of thing. And you can do that in real life too. You know, like if you run into someone, I need to do this because John Mayer did a great job of this recently. And so he did a great job of talking about like, I didn't start making really great conversational video. I started back in, I don't remember what year it was, like 2016 or something. And this is what my video looked like. And he showed the evolution. And I think that is such a great message to show like, it doesn't look like this product you see now at the beginning.
Right.
There's this growth and transition. And even M Studios, I joke that we're the, cobbler's children with no shoes, because like we're building websites and brands and strategy for everyone, and we're the last to get any attention.
Yeah,
so
right.
like our website's okay. But it's certainly better than when I first launched it.
Yeah,
and
totally.
so it's like, just get a little bit better every single day, and video's the same way.
And that's one of the things I like that point, because one of the things I hear a lot too is, look for inspiration that that might not be in your industry as well.
Right.
Like, what are people in construction doing? Like, and how can you take that to your to your marketing content, of like teaching people about marketing and things like that. I like that piece. And another thing, I have conversations a lot with like artists that they're like, I'm not getting any, views on my finished products of what I'm showing. But I counter that with like, as you look at other artists that are having success on like maybe Instagram or TikTok or something like that, what are the types of content that they're showing? And a lot of it is the process that they go through to make this piece of art.
Right.
It's like, and that's what people are engaging with. That's what people like click on and stay with. And, that retention keeps going up. And so like those types of videos are basically being rewarded by the algorithm of like just people staying on those of the process of what this art piece looks like, not necessarily just the finished product. And I think a lot of our content, whatever industry you're in, that says a lot of like, what's the process?
Yep.
Like, give a little behind the scenes look.
Well, and I'm terrible about this because I like to show the finished product.
Oh yeah.
But I truly think that goes back to the storytelling approach of bring people along with you on this journey.
Like that.
You don't have it all figured out either.
Totally.
Like, you can be an expert, but I don't have it all figured out. Like, join me as I figure this out.
Yeah.
And I think that, think about the shows that you watch.
Yeah, right.
That's half the intrigue of why I want to watch House Hunters.
Yeah.
Of like,
Yeah,
they don't have it figured out.
Yeah,
they don't know what they want.
Yeah.
And this needs a ton of work, but I get really excited to see like what happened at the end.
Yep.
And that's the same for people as they follow your business growth.
Are you familiar with The Lord of the Rings?
I'm familiar.
Okay, well, they came out with these box sets like in the early 2000s, right? When those movies were coming out.
Yeah.
And part of the box sets were just hours upon hours of behind the scenes on how they made these movies.
Yeah.
Okay, the movies are great, right? My wife and I love those movies.
Yeah.
However, you know what we love more?
The behind the scenes.
The behind the scenes.
That's
like
amazing.
We'll sit and watch hours on hours of just behind the scenes of how these movies were made. And I think that is such a like telling piece.
Yep.
And I talked with a bunch of other people that love those behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And that's just a telling piece of like that process. Take them on the journey, right? Like the storytelling aspect that you're.
They want to see how you do what you do.
I love it. Do you have any as you kind of think about some of the clients that you've worked with, you don't need to name names or anything, but like, are there any like success stories that you've seen, with your experience, maybe small businesses or whatever that has, they've effectively used video marketing in their strategy?
This last year, as we've brought on the cross-functional marketing team to really support the execution, we've been able to support people in things like a video podcast.
Yeah.
And so the clients who have started that have probably released up to like, I think the most is like 10 episodes. So
Sweet.
It's still very much in its infancy.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that they continue to get like in real life feedback.
Yeah.
And then also online feedback.
Love it.
And what I'm so excited about is I then, as a marketing strategist, have pieces that already show the credibility of these people to be able to say, this person should be on stage at your conference. This person should be leading a workshop for this company.
Nice.
And I can use that content to make more marketing noise.
Yeah, right.
So just using that as a tool to be able to build thought leaders and start to share the story of the people behind these companies. I think that like I will die on this hill that people follow people.
Yeah.
And they don't want to follow brands necessarily.
Yeah.
They want to follow the people behind each of these brands and they want to do business with the people behind the brands.
That's awesome.
And I think that the more we can remove that, dehumanization of brands and start to lean into, like I saw recently, there's a huge trend in 2025, this should shock no one, that there's a lot of like employee-led marketing.
Right.
And you put a video camera on a phone and
Yeah.
a mic in their hand, and sure, there's a liability, but at the same time, it's like if you, with
Yeah.
the right direction and oversight, like
Yeah.
what better way to get some insight into who you work with
Yeah.
and what they do
Yeah.
and why
Culture.
they're the experts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Culture.
Yeah,
Huge.
exactly. Well, and then it works as a recruitment tool as
100%.
well.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been a great conversation, Maren.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks
we
for
do,
having me.
unfortunately, we do need to wrap it up.
Okay.
You know, but I feel like,
You can have me back again.
oh yeah,
I would
let's
come back. for you.
definitely let's do that. Okay. So we had this whole conversation,
Mhm.
and somebody watching this, wherever you are, let's say they didn't get anything from this whole conversation. Maybe they tuned out or whatever.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you have? What's one thing that you want somebody to take away from this whole thing? I think I know what it is.
What do you think it is?
No, I want you to say it.
You,
But can I whisper it to you?
yeah, you can. Yeah. You're close.
Oh, okay. All right. That's close. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give away his secret. He said, just do it. That is 100%
Yep.
true. So that if I had a second thing, that
Yeah.
would be it.
Gotcha.
I would say before you just do it, start to think about who you're doing it for.
Yes.
And the strategy and like, where are they?
Yeah.
So then you can focus in on what that person needs to hear.
Yeah.
And
I
that
love
goes back to your frequently asked questions piece.
Yeah,
Like, what
right.
do you get asked about a lot?
Yeah.
And I think, again, as a strategist, it's easy for me to say start with strategy. But for real, like,
Yeah.
and especially
And
if
it's
you're going to
huge.
do a video production,
Yeah.
spend the time on the front end of thinking about what voice needs to tell the story to this audience,
Yeah.
what voice needs to tell this story to this audience,
Yep.
and where is that audience going to hear this story?
Yeah.
So that you can
So
be
good.
really thoughtful on the front end of who, what, when, and why.
Love it. Well, this has been so great having
Well,
this
thanks for
conversation.
having
Like
me.
you said, definitely have you back
I
sometime.
would love that.
Well, if you have any questions, about this episode, make sure you go down in the comments and we can get a conversation started down there. Continue the conversation
That's right.
down in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I don't know what camera I'm going to look at for that, but make sure you like and subscribe. Maren, so thank you so much for being on the episode, and
Happy
we'll
to
have
be
you
here.
back. All right.
Thanks,
All right.
Caleb.
Thanks.